The camera opens on a quiet, dimly lit office. The room is silent, except for the soft rustle of papers and the faint sound of a ticking clock. The protagonist, James, sits at his desk staring at the computer screen. His face shows the weight of exhaustion and disappointment. He slowly stands up, grabs a cardboard box, and begins packing his belongings, a few framed pictures, a mug with his name on it, and a stack of work folders. The silence is broken only by the soft clink of the items being placed in the box. Each movement feels slow, deliberate, like he's still processing what has just happened. The camera lingers on his face for a long moment. His eyes are a mixture of anger, disbelief, and heartbreak. His lips are pressed tightly together, trying to hold back the emotions. He pauses, as if he's trying to understand how things went so wrong. James walks out of the office. The door shuts behind him with a soft click, leaving the room in eerie silence. As he steps out into the hallway, he passes by his colleagues who glance at him with indifference, not a word of comfort or sympathy. Their faces reflect the same subtle, unnoticed prejudice that's been building against him for years. What would you do if you were fired just for the color of your skin? And what if that same company had to beg you to come back as their CEO? The camera focuses on James's face, showing a mix of frustration and determination. His hands shake as he holds the box, but there's a fire inside him that won't be extinguished. The music swells slightly, emphasizing the weight of the moment. The audience feels a deep sense of sympathy for James, but also a curiosity. Why was he fired? What will happen next? The hook immediately pulls them in, raising questions and setting the stage for the journey to come. The camera zooms in on James, sitting at his desk in the company's bustling open-plan office. It's a busy Monday morning, and the office is filled with the sounds of phones ringing, keyboards clicking, and casual conversations. James is focused, eyes glued to his computer screen as he works on an important project. His posture is perfect, straight-backed, elbows bent, his attention sharp. He's the kind of person who gives his best no matter the task. His dedication is obvious. A close-up of James's face as he sends an email to his boss, Mr. Harris, a middle-aged, confident man. James looks at his screen with a hopeful expression, waiting for a response to a new idea he's just proposed for a big project. The idea is bold, creative, and could really push the company forward. Later that day, during a team meeting, James is sitting in a circle with other colleagues discussing the next steps for the project. He presents his idea confidently, explaining it in detail. He's articulate, knowledgeable, and genuinely passionate about the plan. But as he speaks, he notices the subtle expressions from his coworkers. Some look bored, others glance at each other as if judging him. Sarah, a colleague, makes an offhand comment to the person sitting next to her, her voice loud enough for James to hear. "I don't know why he thinks his ideas are so brilliant. I mean, look at him." The comment lingers in the air, cutting through the room like a cold breeze. James looks away quickly, but the hurt is clear in his eyes. He forces a smile and continues, but the energy in the room has shifted. A few days later, James is again in the break room, grabbing a coffee. Tom, another colleague, walks in. As he reaches for the sugar, he looks at James and casually says, "You know, some of us here work harder than others. Just because you're here doesn't mean you're entitled to a promotion. Some of us have been here longer and deserve it more." James stares at his cup, the hurt and frustration building inside, but he says nothing. He quietly nods and walks out, avoiding eye contact. James sits in his office alone, staring at the computer screen. The emails are piling up, the projects are stacking high, and yet there's no recognition, no acknowledgement. No one ever praises his work. His ideas are consistently ignored and his proposals dismissed. His hard work seems invisible. His boss, Mr. Harris, walks by, his gaze briefly landing on James's desk. But instead of offering feedback or appreciation, he simply nods and walks away, talking to another employee as if James doesn't exist. The audience feels a deep sense of injustice. James is a dedicated, hard-working employee, but his efforts go unnoticed because of the subtle racism he faces in the office. They see how the system isn't just broken, it's biased. The hurt isn't always obvious, but it cuts deep, and that's what makes it even more painful. The audience can feel the weight of this silent discrimination, knowing that James is stuck in a system that isn't built for someone like him, no matter how hard he works. It's a quiet afternoon in the office. James is seated at his desk, diligently working on a report for a major project. His computer screen displays a presentation he's been preparing for weeks. The atmosphere is calm, with the usual sounds of people typing and murmuring softly in the background. James, however, is focused entirely on his work. Suddenly, Mr. Harris, the boss, walks by his desk. He doesn't make eye contact, but gives a quick, dismissive nod. James, puzzled, looks up but doesn't think much of it. Moments later, Mr. Harris's voice echoes across the office. "James, can you come to my office for a moment?" James walks into the office. The door shuts behind him with a soft click, trapping him in the sterile, professional space. The tension in the room is thick as Mr. Harris doesn't look up from his desk. "Sit down, James," Mr. Harris says, his tone cold, detached. James sits down cautiously. His heart begins to race. He feels the pit in his stomach, like something's not right. Mr. Harris clears his throat and finally looks up from the papers on his desk, glancing at James with a strained smile. "James, we've been evaluating your performance," Mr. Harris starts, his voice lacking the usual warmth. James looks at him, unsure of what's coming. "We've decided it's just not working out. You're not the right fit for the company." The words land in the air like a heavy blow. The coldness of the statement stings, but what hurts even more is the complete lack of explanation. No specifics, no real feedback, just the vague, impersonal words. James opens his mouth to respond, but his words catch in his throat. He can feel the weight of the injustice hanging in the air, but he's too stunned to speak. He looks around, searching for something, some sign of understanding, some clue as to why this is happening. But all he sees is Mr. Harris, the man who's never fully appreciated his work, never seen his potential, now casting him aside without a second thought. Mr. Harris pushes a folder toward James. "We've prepared your severance package. You'll receive your payment and benefits for the next few weeks. You can leave whenever you're ready." James stares at the folder, the words on the paper blurring before his eyes. He looks back up at Mr. Harris, his voice trembling with a mix of frustration and confusion. "I don't understand. I've worked so hard. I've given everything to this company. What did I do wrong?" Mr. Harris just shrugs. "It's just not working out, James. It happens sometimes. We wish you the best." His tone is dismissive, as if James is just another casualty in the company's numbers game. James stands up, still holding the folder in his hands. His eyes are filled with disbelief. He turns and walks out of the office, his heart pounding in his chest. As he steps into the hallway, he's met with the cold stares of his coworkers. No one offers him a word of sympathy. No one asks what happened. It's as if he's invisible. The audience feels angry and upset. The firing is abrupt and unjust, and the lack of a legitimate reason makes it clear that race is the underlying factor. The coldness of Mr. Harris's words, the lack of empathy, and the abruptness of the situation are gut-wrenching. The audience is forced to ask, how can a person be treated this way despite their hard work and dedication? How can someone like James be discarded so easily? The camera opens on James sitting at his kitchen table, the only light coming from a dim lamp overhead. The once pristine, well-kept space now feels empty and cold. His laptop is open in front of him, but instead of an inspiring list of job opportunities, there are endless rejection emails cluttering the screen. His face is tired, worn down by the weight of the struggle. The room is silent except for the soft clicking of his mouse scrolling through yet another company's job listing. James leans back in his chair, his eyes stinging from staring at the screen for hours. He picks up his phone and dials a number. His voice cracks as he speaks, the fear of failure palpable. "Hey, I wanted to check on the job interview. Any updates?" He waits for a response, but after a few seconds, the smile fades from his face as he hears the answer on the other end. "Sorry, we've decided to move forward with another candidate." He hangs up and the camera lingers on his face, capturing the deep sense of loss. He stares at the phone for a moment, almost as if he's hoping the words will change. But they don't. James walks through the local grocery store. He picks up a few items, scanning the shelves absent-mindedly. The once confident, motivated man now feels like a shadow of himself. The weight of his circumstances presses down on him. He looks at his shopping cart, wondering if he can even afford to buy the essentials. His bank account is low, and the bills are piling up. He picks up a loaf of bread, then hesitates before placing it back, choosing the cheaper option. Later that night, James sits alone on the couch, staring at the TV without really watching. The news anchors speak in the background, but his mind is elsewhere. He replays his firing over and over in his head, trying to make sense of what happened. He wonders if it was all a result of his race. Was that why he was treated like a second-class employee? Was that why he wasn't given the same chances as his colleagues? He sighs a long, deep breath and runs his hand through his hair, his gaze lost. "Am I just not good enough?" he thinks to himself. "Am I just another statistic? Am I always going to be held back by something I can't control?" The doubts are overwhelming. The struggle feels endless. Each rejection is a blow to his confidence, and each day spent without progress eats away at his self-worth. His mind races, trying to figure out what went wrong, but all he can come up with is the same answer: race. James takes a walk outside, the cold night air stinging his face. He walks aimlessly, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. But as he walks, the camera focuses on his face. His expression changes. Slowly he starts to lift his head and his eyes narrow with a renewed sense of determination. He's not done. He's not going to let this defeat him. The audience feels the deep pain and frustration James is going through. The struggle is real, and it's clear how much his confidence is being shaken. They can feel his self-doubt, his questioning of his worth, and his internal battle against the unfairness of the situation. But as the scene progresses, they also feel his determination begin to build. He's not going to give up, no matter how hard things get. His resilience is something they can admire and relate to. It's late at night, and the only light in James's apartment comes from the glow of his computer screen. He sits at the kitchen table, surrounded by empty coffee cups and scattered papers. His face is tired, but there's something different in his eyes now, a spark of determination that wasn't there before. The camera focuses on his screen as he types, researching how to start a business from the ground up. There are no investors, no help from anyone. He's starting from scratch. James sitting with a notebook, writing down his thoughts and ideas. He's scribbling down business plans, goals, and strategies. The pages are filled with ideas, yet there's no guarantee that any of this will work. He's taking a risk, but it's a risk he has to take. He's done with waiting for opportunities to come to him. He stands up, stretches, and walks over to his phone. He makes calls, tries to network, but the responses are always the same. No one seems to take him seriously at first. He faces rejection after rejection, but instead of letting it defeat him, he uses it as fuel. Every no just makes him work harder, dig deeper, and push further. The next day, James is at a local coffee shop, meeting with a potential client. His suit is slightly wrinkled, and his tie is a bit off-center, but his energy is magnetic. He speaks passionately about his new business idea, his voice filled with purpose and excitement. The client looks skeptical at first, but is slowly drawn in by James's determination and enthusiasm. He listens carefully, nodding along. And then, unexpectedly, he agrees to a trial project, James working late again, surrounded by papers and his laptop. This time, there's an undeniable sense of purpose in his movements. He's not just trying to survive anymore, he's building something meaningful. The camera cuts between him working on his business, facing small challenges, and overcoming each one with relentless focus. Weeks later, James stands in front of a new office space, modest, but a sign of his progress. There's a small James Enterprises sign outside the door. He looks up at it with a mixture of pride and disbelief, knowing how hard he's fought to get here. As he walks inside, the camera follows him, showing the room filled with new employees, young, diverse, and motivated. James is now the leader. The person who was once overlooked and undervalued is now in control of his own destiny. A few months later, James receives an email notification. He opens it to see an article about his business's success. The headline reads, "From Fired to Founder, How James Turned Rejection into Triumph." The article highlights his journey, his resilience, and how his company has grown. He smiles as he reads it, but quickly looks up, aware that his journey is far from over. The audience feels a deep sense of inspiration. James has faced so many obstacles, but here, in this moment, the tide is turning. The weight of his struggles is still there, but hope begins to shine through. They witness his transformation from someone who was pushed to the edge into someone who created his own path. This is the point where the audience realizes that even in the face of adversity, there's always a chance to rise, to start anew, and to succeed on your own terms. James is sitting at his desk, the same desk where he once doubted his future. But now, the space is completely different. The walls are decorated with awards, framed articles, and letters of appreciation from clients. The clutter of papers has been replaced by organized files, and his computer screen displays a growing list of new clients and projects. James is in a meeting room discussing a new partnership with a major company. He's speaking with confidence, his presence commanding the room. His voice is steady, filled with authority, but also warmth and respect for everyone around him. His reputation as a reliable, innovative businessman has spread. His ideas are no longer ignored. One of the clients leans forward and says, "James, we've heard about your work. We'd love to collaborate with you on this project." James smiles, but there's no arrogance in his expression. He knows this success is hard-earned, and he's just getting started. A montage of James attending industry conferences. He's standing on stage, sharing his story and his journey. The audience listens intently, inspired by the man who once had nothing but now has everything. His words resonate with many, particularly those who have faced similar struggles. His name is becoming synonymous with resilience and perseverance. Articles are being published about him, interviews are being scheduled, and podcasts invite him to speak. James is now a symbol of what's possible when you refuse to be defined by the obstacles in your life. James receives an email with the subject line, "Feature article, How James Overcame Rejection and Built a Thriving Business." He clicks on it and reads through the piece, which praises his incredible journey from being fired unjustly to becoming a successful entrepreneur. The article details how James faced systemic racism, financial struggles, and self-doubt, but never gave up. The article ends with a quote from James. "Success isn't about how many times you win, but how many times you stand back up after being knocked down." James is sitting in his office, reflecting on everything he's accomplished. The view from his window shows the bustling city below, a city full of opportunities. He looks at the photo on his desk of him and his team, and a sense of pride fills him. He knows how far he's come and how much further he can go. James is now on stage at a major business conference, addressing an audience of hundreds. His message is clear. No matter where you come from or what you face, there's always a way forward. His story is a testament to the power of hard work, determination, and resilience. The audience feels an overwhelming sense of pride and hope. Watching James succeed against all odds, they see that no matter how high the barriers or how impossible the challenges, success is possible through sheer perseverance. James is no longer just a survivor of his circumstances. He's a thriving example of what can be achieved when you believe in yourself and refuse to quit. His story inspires the audience to believe that they too can overcome their obstacles and build something meaningful. James is at his desk reviewing contracts and business strategies. He's sitting in a sleek, modern office now, surrounded by a team that respects him, an empire he built with his own hands. He's been through it, all the struggles, the doubts, the rejections, and he's come out on top. But the phone call he's about to receive will test everything he's worked for. The phone rings. James picks it up, glancing at the number. His expression is unreadable. It's a familiar name from his past, the company that fired him years ago. He answers, his tone calm but alert. "Hello?" The voice on the other end is hesitant, almost apologetic. "James, it's Michael. We need your help. We've hit rock bottom. Our company's in serious trouble. We've heard about what you've done, and we're asking if you'd consider coming back, not just as an employee, but as our new CEO. We want to sell the company to you. You're the only one who can turn it around." James pauses for a moment, his mind racing. His pulse quickens. This is it. The company that fired him, the company that discarded him without a second thought, now wants him back. They've hit hard times, and now they're begging him to save them. James sets the phone down and walks over to the window of his office. He looks out at the city below, the skyline reflecting the success he's built for himself. He's come a long way. This is the moment he's been waiting for. But he knows that this is more than just a chance for revenge. Yes, they wronged him. Yes, they tried to destroy his career. But James isn't the same man he was when he walked out of that office years ago. He's stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. He could crush them, let the past dictate his decision. But something deep inside him tells him that the real victory is in making the choice that reflects who he is now, not who they made him feel like back then. James sits back down at his desk. He closes his eyes for a moment, thinking carefully. The offer in front of him is more than just about business. It's a chance for justice, not through vengeance, but through change. The company he once worked for is filled with the same toxic culture that led to his firing. But now, with the power in his hands, he can reshape it. He can make it a place where everyone has an equal chance, where diversity is celebrated, where respect is earned and not given by the color of your skin. He picks up the phone and dials Michael back. "I'll do it," James says, his voice steady but resolute. "But we're going to change things. I'll buy the company, and I'll become the CEO. But this time, it's going to be on my terms." James walks into the boardroom of the very same company that once discarded him. The board members sit around the table, looking nervous. They can't believe that the man they once fired is now the one holding their fate in his hands. James enters, and the room goes silent. He stands at the head of the table, his presence commanding and undeniable. He looks around at the faces, many of them the same ones who once ignored his ideas and discriminated against him. But now the power has shifted. Now he is in control. James takes a seat at the CEO's desk. The camera pans across the room, showing the walls, now adorned with motivational quotes and images of diverse teams. James has completely transformed the company. The culture has shifted. Everyone feels respected, valued, and empowered. He looks at the old photo of the company's leadership team, a group of people who once fired him without hesitation. He stands up, walks over to the window, and looks out at the skyline once again. His reflection stares back at him, a man who has truly come full circle. The audience feels a surge of triumph and pride. This is the moment where James has full control, not just over the company, but over his destiny. He's made the choice to rise above the bitterness of revenge and instead use this opportunity to create something better for everyone. It's a perfect balance of revenge and redemption, not in the way most would expect, but in a way that shows his growth, his strength, and his unbreakable character. The journey has come full circle. James didn't let his past define him, and now he's using his power to change the world around him for the better. James walks into the company's main headquarters as the new CEO. The air feels different this time. There's no tension, no sense of unease. The employees greet him with smiles and respect, acknowledging the change in leadership with a quiet but visible sense of relief. The days of discrimination and inequality are now behind them. James stands in front of a large conference room filled with his newly hired team. The room is diverse people of all races, genders, and backgrounds. The walls are decorated with empowering messages about teamwork, equality, and the value of each person's contributions. James addresses the room, his voice filled with a calm but powerful authority. This company is about more than profits. It's about people. No one will ever be treated the way I was treated. Everyone here deserves the same opportunity to succeed, no matter who they are, where they come from, or the color of their skin. We will be a company of fairness, respect, and opportunity for all. As he speaks, the employees listen intently, nodding in agreement. This isn't just corporate jargon. They can see the sincerity in James's eyes, the passion that drives him to make a real difference. They know that under his leadership, things will change for the better. James meets with the head of human resources, where they discuss new policies for the company. They create initiatives to support hiring from underrepresented communities and build a workplace where everyone feels empowered to share their ideas without fear of being dismissed. James stands at the front of a hiring fair, shaking hands with young, diverse job seekers. He's not just looking for employees, he's looking for people who have the potential to grow, to lead, and to contribute to the positive culture he's building. He encourages them, offering advice and showing that he believes in them. One of the young women he meets is visibly excited. "I can't believe I'm meeting you. You've shown me that it's possible to get ahead in a place like this." James smiles, his eyes filled with understanding. "You've always had it in you. I just want to make sure you have the opportunity to show the world what you can do." James receives an award for his company's work in promoting diversity and inclusion. The camera zooms in on the plaque that reads, "Excellence in Leadership and Social Change." He stands on the stage accepting the award, surrounded by his team, proud of what they've accomplished together. James returns to the community where he grew up, visiting a local youth center. He speaks to a group of teenagers about the importance of education, hard work, and perseverance. He tells them that their future is theirs to create, and that they too can rise above any challenges they face. As he leaves the youth center, one of the teenagers approaches him. "You came from where we are. If you can do it, maybe we can too." James smiles, placing a hand on the teenager's shoulder. "You will. I'm just here to help you get there." The audience feels uplifted and hopeful. This is the ultimate payoff, seeing James go from being a victim of racism and injustice to becoming a leader who actively works to make the world better. His growth has been incredible, and now, through his leadership, he's creating opportunities for others, ensuring that no one else will have to face the same struggles he did. The audience feels proud of James's journey from a man who was wrong to a man who made a real, lasting impact. It's a moment of true redemption, not just for James, but for all the people he touches along the way. Years have passed since James took over as CEO. The company now stands as a beacon of inclusivity, innovation, and success. The once troubled organization, known for its toxic culture, has transformed into a place where employees of all backgrounds thrive together. The office has changed. The walls are adorned with awards for diversity and leadership, and the company's logo now stands proudly in the center of a bustling, vibrant headquarters. The employees work collaboratively, a team that shares not just goals, but values of respect, equality, and empowerment. James walks through the office, smiling as he passes by employees who greet him with genuine warmth. He stops to chat with a few workers, checking in on their projects, offering support, and listening to their ideas. The atmosphere is open and welcoming, a far cry from the hostile, discriminatory environment he once knew. James stands in front of a crowd at a major conference, delivering a speech on leadership, diversity, and the importance of staying true to one's values. The audience listens intently, inspired by his journey and the success he's created. It's not just about what you accomplish for yourself, he says. It's about what you leave behind, the impact you have on others, the chance you give people to believe in themselves when the world tells them they can't. The camera pans across the room, showing a diverse group of people in the audience, all nodding in agreement. They're not just listening to a speaker. They're hearing the words of someone who has truly lived through the challenges they face. James returns to the community that supported him in his early days. He attends a graduation ceremony for a group of students he mentored, all of whom are about to step into the professional world. He stands at the front, proud of the young men and women who are now ready to succeed, armed with the lessons he taught them. One of the graduates approaches him, gratitude in their eyes. "You changed my life. If it weren't for you, I don't know where I'd be." James places a hand on the graduate's shoulder. "You changed your life. I just gave you the opportunity to see what was always inside you." The company's annual report shows record profits, but it's not just the financial success that stands out. The report highlights the company's commitment to diversity, mentorship, and community outreach. It's clear that James's legacy is not just in the numbers, but in the lives he's changed. The final scene shows James standing at the front of the company's headquarters, looking out over the city as the sun sets. He's come a long way from the man who was once fired. He's not just a CEO, he's a symbol of hope, a reminder that with determination, hard work, and the courage to do what's right, anyone can overcome adversity and leave a lasting legacy. The audience is left feeling deeply inspired and hopeful. This is a story of justice, fairness, and redemption where hard work and unwavering belief in one's values led to real, positive change. James's legacy isn't just about his personal success, but about the way he changed the world around him for the better. It's a powerful reminder that positive change is possible, and that one person's efforts can ripple out to create lasting impact.